Let's talk about pre-birth planning. You heard of it? So I just came out of this really cool Zoom session with six other pre-birth experiencers. So the concept is that before we come to Earth, we pick out our lives and we have these pre-birth experiences. Some of us can remember some of the things that we picked, some of the experiences, some of the beings that we were with when we picked all these things. If you haven't heard my story, I have a pre-birth experience where I saw myself in a cosmic grocery store, and lining the walls of the grocery store aisles were these big giant cereal boxes, and every cereal box had a life experience on it. And my soul went shopping while hungry and grabbed every freaking cereal box that it could get its hands on, with this intention that it was coming to Earth for the Great Awakening. It was healing ancestral trauma, past life trauma, like just this really big purpose attached to it. And so I carry that with me throughout my Earth experience, that I am healing for a big collective purpose. Sometimes I don't know what it is. Sometimes I feel like I do know what it is. But at the end of the day, it's all for the greater good. And that gives me a lot of purpose here on earth. So there was so many cool questions that came up, and this person's writing a book and we each contributed a chapter, and so he was having kind of like this grand finale. Anyway, I want to comment on some of the questions because I think that they're questions that lots of people have. One of the main ones was, what do you say to people who maybe have had challenging lives, and when they hear this concept of I chose my life before I got here, they totally reject it, they want nothing to do with it. What do you say to those people? And my response was, I don't say anything to those people. You don't have to believe in pre birth planning if you don't want to. And pre birth planning is often weaponized and used as a tool to spiritually bypass. So you could have a friend who's really going through something very intense, and somebody will maliciously say, well, you planned it, so just get over it. And that's not what this information is about. When people are going through real life trauma or dense experiences, you can't just throw some spiritual concept at them and call it a day. So I often use this example. Let's say that there's a mother and she's just lost her child and she's in the midst of grief. You wouldn't go up to her and say, like, well, you planned it before you got here, get over it. No, that lacks that lacks all human compassion and empathy and understanding. So for me, I chose a very challenging life. Both my parents committed suicide in a suicide pact. I've dealt with addiction. I dealt with addiction for over 20 years of my life. Sexual trauma as a child, a adolescent, a young adult, a regular adult. I've experienced a lot of very dense experiences: poverty, homelessness, prostitution, degradation, dereliction, trauma. I've been the traumatizer in people's lives. I've been the abuser. I've been the predator. And so I've experienced this huge range of things. And then having the understanding that I chose all of that, well, like, what the fuck? Why? Why would I do that? And I don't have some great crafted answer, except that I really think that heaven's boring. There's nothing to do there. I think that we're all super jaded. And so we come to earth when we get to this certain level of jadedness where unconditional love no longer brings us joy. We're just like totally blah. And we come to earth for the contrast, to go back and appreciate the love the way that we were always meant to appreciate it. I don't know, maybe that's my nihilistic point of view, but that's the way that I see it. I think that there's this great movie called Bliss. It's got Owen Wilson and Salma Hayek in it. And to me, it's absolutely what the Earth experience is about. Basically, they come from utopia and they go into this thing called the ugly simulator, and it's Earth. And it's how they get to appreciate where they actually come from, because their world is so beautiful, but they have all these complaints like, the pool water is not warm enough and I have to jump into a cold pool in my beautiful mansion every day. And so that was one of the questions. So again, you don't have to weaponize the idea of pre-birth planning. People always try to throw crazy things like, well, what about Hitler? Was that pre-planned? Why did children die of cancer? Is that pre-planned? And I have a very deep knowing that yes, it is planned. I don't have great answers as to why, except that those individual souls signed up for that, and it's not up to me to take away their autonomy. It's not up to me to even understand why would somebody want to experience something like that. It's just up to me to have acceptance around it and to remain open-minded that they have a mission that I don't have access to. It's way above my pay grade, but I honor their mission and I honor their journey. And I was saying how, during the day I work with the homeless population in New York City, and I think, damn, this person's soul is an absolute insane person, because why would someone choose to live like that? But again, it's not up to me to figure it out or decide. I'm not the decider of those things. I'm just here to hold space. And so I just honor that soul's mission. And I thank them for their service to humanity. Okay, some of the other questions was, what happens when you hear somebody else's pre-birth experience? What kind of feelings come up? So one of the things that I said was that sometimes my brain goes into this compare and despair sort of space where I think, oh wow, their experience was so light and celestial, and I wish that mine wasn't so clunky and video game like, but that's just my ego trying to tear me apart. And that another part about hearing when other people have these pre-birth experiences is that it feels like we each have a piece of the puzzle. And we've each been downloaded with our own design of the experience because it's supposed to resonate with certain people. So my story doesn't resonate with everybody. It only resonates with certain people, obviously the coolest people on earth. And that's okay. And somebody else's experience is going to touch people that I can't touch with my experience. And it's so cool. We're all these beautiful threads in this beautiful big tapestry. Another one of the questions was, what are we, and for what purpose do we incarnate? And yeah, again, I don't know if there's any purpose. I think the purpose is just to live and experience all of life, the good, bad, and different, all over the scale of consciousness experience, every emotion, multiple times in your life, over and over and over again. Experience other people, experience triggers, experience food, experience sex, experience joy, experience bliss, experience all that the human experience has to offer. And what are we? We are divine spirits. We're sparks of source energy. I'm a piece of energy. I come from a source of energy, and that source of energy is nothing but unconditional love, joy, bliss, peace, serenity, reunion, home. And I am a piece of that. And I bring that piece of me everywhere that I go. Every time I choose to dial into that awareness, again, just because I had some spiritual experience, I'm not some sort of enlightened spiritual being. I'm human as fuck, and I love being human. Flaws and all, warts and all, I am who I am, and that is me being my most authentic self. I'm always continuing to grow and evolve and change. And I look forward to my growth and evolvement, and I'm never going to pretend like I'm somebody that I'm not. And yeah, just because I had a spiritual experience does not mean that I am an enlightened being. We are all enlightened beings. But yeah, I wrote that Earth kind of feels like some kind of combination of an escape room or a bad improv show and a spiritual boot camp all smashed into one thing. But we all signed up for it willingly. And yeah, I mean, it's just so cool to know that we're all here for something really super big. Another one of the questions was, how can people without pre-birth experiences live in alignment with their pre-birth plan and purpose? So yeah, if you're one of the many people who have come across this piece of information and you want to know what's my purpose, my suggestion is to find what you're passionate about. Whatever you're passionate about, that's where your purpose lies. Also, in some sort of trauma, generally you'll find a piece of purpose, like you're meant to help somebody who's going through similar trauma. So if so what are you passionate about? What could you talk about for hours and never get tired of? That's the thing that you're passionate about. And if you don't know what that is yet, that's so cool, because you get to discover what it is. And the discovery of what your purpose is the best part of purpose. I will say living in your purpose is also really, really cool. but the discovery process is amazing as long as you can get out of your own way. It's not about being perfect. There is no way to mess this up. There's nothing that you can do to mess up your soul's experience. There really truly isn't. Maybe the only thing that you could do to mess it up is to not do anything. As long as you're taking forward movement in any direction, you're doing a great job. So, yeah, I love the discovery process. I share this story often that when I first came into spiritual awareness, I was 35 years old after my near death like experience, and I didn't know who I was. And I hated who I was before my experience. And so I felt really empty, very vacant, and I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't even know what my personality was. I was truly an empty vessel. I was a blank canvas. And at first, that was so overwhelming. I would just look at this blank canvas every day and say, "You idiot. You ruined your life. You're 35 years old and you don't know who you are. You wasted your whole life on drugs. And how could you do this?" And then one day, that voice didn't come into my head first thing in the morning. And instead, another voice came in and it said, "Wow, you don't know who you are. That's so cool. That means that you get to discover who you are, the most authentic version of yourself. This is going to be the most creative thing you ever do with your life." And I started to look at that blank canvas as a masterpiece. And I started doing little brush strokes. And I started trying on spiritual principles to discover who I was. Am I an honest person? Brushstroke. Yeah, I am an honest person. I love honesty. I was a liar for 35 years of my life. Being an honest person feels so amazing. And I'm honest in every area of my life, except sometimes I'm late to work, and I guess that's pretty dishonest because my bosses don't know. Other than that, I am a truly authentic, honest person, and I love that about me. Sometimes I can be brutally honest, and I'm learning how to balance compassionately honest with brutally honest, and that takes temperance and practice. And sometimes I fuck up, and sometimes I do a really great job, but at the end of the day, honesty is one of my core values. Some other things that I tried on were open-mindedness. Oh, hell yeah. Oh, I'm blasted all the way open. I love being open-minded. I tried on patience. I could be a pretty patient person. I integrated inside of a long-term rehab for a year and a half. So I had to really exercise patience there because I wasn't able to move at my own pace. I had to go at the pace of the facility. But generally, I live in New York City. I'm not super patient. If I miss the train, I want to murder somebody. So patience is kind of a snug fit. And I had to kind of erase that brush stroke a little bit, but I'm working on it. Same thing with all these other spiritual principles. Unconditional love, no. There's plenty of people that I don't love. I don't give a lot of unconditional love. Most of my love is pretty conditional, but again, I'm working on the painting. It's still a becoming. I am the most authentic version of myself right now, but thanks to open-mindedness, I know that that will shift and change. So anyway, this is my little video on pre-birth planning. It's a super cool topic. Some books that I would recommend until my own is published is Your Soul's Plan by Robert Schwartz, Your Soul's Gift by Robert Schwartz, Journey of Souls by Michael Newton, Destiny of Souls by Michael Newton. Incredible, incredible. Those books were so affirming for me when it came to understanding the idea around pre-birth planning because someone just randomly gave me Michael Newton's book after I told them about my experience. And I said, "Oh my God, there's a book about what happened to me." That's incredible. And so super affirming. So anyway, drop your questions in the comments and let me know if you have anything else that comes up when you think about the idea of pre-birth planning. Did you plan your life? Will you come back to Earth and plan another life for yourself? What will your next life look like if you will come back here? Because I'm going to tell you this right now. You can start living that life right now. Whatever your desire is for your next lifetime, just start doing it right now. My desire for my next lifetime is to come back as a millionaire, and I plan on being one in this lifetime. And I keep making all the steps that I have to make to get myself there, and it's happening. And yeah, it just continues to grow and evolve, and you are worthy of all the love in the universe. Don't ever forget it. You really, truly are. No matter what your circumstances is, no matter what you're going through right now, no matter what you've done in the past, you are worthy of all the love in the universe. You really, truly are. Be wavy.